So cool. So we're going to talk a lot more about Windows, tomorrow when Panos is up here. The other thing that we're also very excited to launch is the Copilot stack, right? After all, we built all these Copilots with one common architectural stack. We want to make that available so that everyone here can build their own Copilot for their applications. We will have everything from the AI infrastructure to the foundation models to the AI orchestration, all the way up to your Copilots and its extensibility. In fact, the other thing that we're going to do is have common extensibility across all of these surfaces, right? Whether it is Chatgpt, Bing Chat, Microsoft 365 Copilot, or all of the Microsoft Copilots. And of course, your own Copilots, we can share the same extensibility model. This is one of the most powerful things for your developers, for every developer to be able to write a plugin and have it reach billions of users across all of these surface areas. So to be able to show you everything in action, from both the plugin extensibility to all of the Copilots we announced, let me invite up on stage Yusuf Mehdi to come show you all of this. Yusuf, let me throw it over to you.
Satya. Hi, everybody. We're making fast progress on delivering our vision of your Copilot for the web and for business. And today, as Satya said, we're excited to announce that we're going to bring ChatGPT and Bing together with the default search experience to give you higher quality answers and more timely answers. Let's take a look. Here I am in ChatGPT, and as you can see now, Bing is the default. And when I come in and select it, I can now ask sort of real-time queries. For example, let's ask what I should expect to hear about build and .NET. And what you can see is the results now are more up-to-date. They include fresh content, and they include citations. In fact, if you can see the links on that page there, you can click those, and those will take you straight to a web page that's sourced by Bing. We're also excited. Yeah, absolutely. You can clap for it. We're also excited to announce that we're going to bring interoperability between ChatGPT and Bing for plugins. So you write them once, and they're going to run everywhere. So as you can see here in ChatGPT, I've got Zillow and Instacart enabled, but I want to show them to you here in Bing Chat. So we'll flip over, and you can see again, I've got the same plugins now in both Bing Chat and in ChatGPT. And what we're going to show you now is I'll do a search here for houses in Chicago, and I can ask for a set of criteria, learn a little bit about the neighborhoods. And now I can automatically call Zillow by saying, hey, give me 3 houses in a certain price range that meet my criteria. And what you can see is now I get these great options, and I'm also going to get all of the other great things you get with Bing, like helpful city guides and maps and prompts. I'm going to tell you now how we're going to further add value to the plugins that you write. They're going to work not just in Chat and ChatGPT. They're going to work across the entire web, courtesy of the Edge browser. So here's an example. I'm on a web page here checking out a recipe for a cake, and now I can call Bing Chat and ask it to tell me, hey, give me the ingredients from this web page. And notice Bing can read the context of the web page, understand those ingredients, put them into Chat, and then I can say, hey, give me a shopping list for this. And it'll automatically call the Instacart plugin, take those ingredients right off the page and put them into an Instacart shopping. And with one click, I can get those now delivered to my house. This is incredible productivity benefit for people. Let me show you now how, yeah. Let's show you how you'll be more productive at work. Here, I'm going to use Microsoft 365 Copilot. Now I'm in Microsoft Word, and I'm going to need some help for drafting a legal contract. I got a legal contract here, and I need some help with California law. So I'm going to call 3 plugins from Thomson Reuters to edit this document. First thing is I'll go into Copilot, and I'll pull it up, and I'll say, hey, help me understand how to edit the limitation of liability using the Practical Law plugin. It'll read the document, find the paragraph, and make that change. Next, I want to know if this is enforceable under California law. So I'll call the Westlaw plugin that will do that analysis, and it'll come back and give me an analysis about it from a legal perspective. And finally, since we're making lots of changes, I'd like to know the summary of all of these changes. And with Document Intelligence, I get a simple table that shows you all of those changes in an easy-to-read format. By joining the power of Microsoft 365 Copilot Word with the support of these real powerful plugins like Thomson Reuters, now you can draft a legal contract in so much more powerful way. Let me show you. Here I am in Teams chat, and I'm engaging with Microsoft 365 Copilot to track website changes. Copilot will just call the Atlassian plugin to help. Atlassian Jira specializes in project and issue tracking. So it'll pull the Jira ticket automatically with the plugin, and now all I have to do is assign an owner using the Azure Active Directory, and that's it. It's all done. So with plugins and Microsoft 365 Copilot, you can intelligent reason across all of your business apps and the data stored in the Microsoft Graph to keep you in your flow. Finally, as Satya shared, we're excited to announce the Windows Copilot. I think it's going to change how you use your PC forever. Let me show it to you. Here I am in a coding project on my PC, but I want to configure my PC to help me be more creative and more productive. All I have to do now is invoke the Windows Copilot. I now just come down here to the taskbar, I click on that, and now we'll pop up the Windows Copilot on the right. This side pane here will be consistent across every app that you use on your PC. And just like with Bing Chat, I can now ask it questions like, how can I adjust my system to get work done? And not only will I get a bunch of great suggestions, but watch this. I can now, with one click, take action on those suggestions. For example, I can put into focus mode. I also know that as developers, we like dark mode. There's a suggestion here for dark mode. So with one click, I'm now here on the dark side. And to really get going, I want to get that coding playlist going. So I'll pull the plugin from Spotify and say, give me a great coding playlist. In this case, Chill Vibes will come up. And now I'll have it ready to go. And finally, there's a suggestion here that says, hey, to organize your PC, let's take advantage of Snap. So with one click, it snaps all the windows right in the place I need them so I can be super productive. What do you think? So as you can see, we have an incredible array of powerful AI-powered copilots. We've got over 50 plugins already available for customers and thousands more coming. I can't wait to see what you're all going to build. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Yusuf. Thank you, Yusuf. We have, as Yusuf said, fantastic momentum already building. And this is about really creating that opportunity for developers to reach all users across all of these surface areas. And we are so excited to see how you go about exploiting that opportunity in the weeks and months to come. Of course, when we talk about the AI platform and the Copilot stack, the next thing for us, which is really exciting, is AI Studio. This is the full life cycle tool chain for you to be able to build your intelligent AI apps and your copilots. Everything from being able to train your own models to be able to then ground, whether it's OpenAI or any open source model, with data that you bring, built-in vector indexing in Azure Search, built-in support for RAG or retrieval augmented generation support, built-in support for prompt engineering with prompt flow and orchestration, and of course, built-in support for perhaps the most important feature, which is AI safety. One of the things that we've been hard at work is to build into the tool chain AI safety. We've been at work on AI safety for the last 5 years. We have principles which we have translated into a core set of processes that we implement across our engineering stack. And then, of course, we have all of the compliance and oversight. But the real challenge is not just to have these things outside the engineering process, but to build it into the everyday tool chain. And that's what we're doing with AI Studio. And it starts with testing, where there is the responsible AI dashboard that helps you during the testing phase to ensure that what you're developing is safe. We have grounding, and in fact, the prompt flow is perhaps one of the best features for you to be able to ground your models. You have provenance for media provenance, for the support for images and videos and watermarking, for your neural voice that's going to be available to all of you as you build your applications, and at deployment time. That's perhaps one of the most critical things, is we have taken all of the safety work we did, for example, for the launch of Bing Chat, and really made it available as just a set of features for any developer to use, right? You can take an OSS model and use the AI safety service to really make it at the deployment time safe. And of course, then you can even monitor the model for model drift. And that way, then you can make sure that it's not just the one time, but you're continuously looking to make sure that you have safe deployment. So we're very, very excited about AI Studio, helping every developer out here to be able to build AI applications, but build them with safety first. Let's roll the video.
Introducing Azure AI Studio, a full lifecycle tool to build, customize, train, evaluate, and deploy the latest next-generation models responsibly. With just a few clicks, developers can ground AI models with their structured and unstructured data to quickly and easily build customized, cutting-edge conversational experiences for their customers. Developers can take advantage of a new model catalog that works with the popular models organizations use, including those from Azure OpenAI Service, Hugging Face, and many other open source models. With Prompt Flow, developers can combine relevant data from your organization and create a detailed prompt to get better results. Prompt Flow works with Foundation, internally developed or open source models, and uses popular open source tools, LangChain, and Semantic Kernel. And because the AI systems we build are designed to support our AI principles, with Azure AI Content Safety, we are making it easier for you to test and evaluate your AI deployments for safety. This is Azure AI Studio, the trusted tools you need to build the next generation of AI applications.
Cool. And of course, all AI applications with data. And we're really thrilled to be announced Microsoft Fabric. This is a product that we've been working very, very hard on over multiple years, and it's finally coming together. It's perhaps the biggest launch of a data product from Microsoft since the launch of SQL Server. It really brings together compute and storage, so it unifies compute and storage. It unifies all of the full analytics stack product experiences. It brings together governance, so it unifies governance with analytics. And most interestingly, it unifies the business model, right, across all the different types of analytics workloads, whether they're SQL, machine learning, whatever job you want, you can use the same compute infrastructure. And this unification at the end of the day is what I think will fuel the next generation of AI applications. Let's roll the video.
Introducing Microsoft Fabric, a unified data analytics platform. One product, one experience, one architecture, one business model. Unified data is stored in one lake, a SaaS data lake for the entire organization. Data is integrated and stored in an open format, allowing one copy to be used to train machine learning models, visualize data, and run SQL queries on the lake and data warehouse. A unified experience brings together all the tools data professionals need: pipelines for orchestrating data movement, experiments for training machine learning models, semantic models for defining key metrics, and much more. And for business users, Fabric brings together data for collaborating and doing ad hoc analysis in Microsoft 365. Unified governance, security, and compliance is built in for all your data. And with Copilot from Microsoft Fabric, AI helps everyone be more productive. Whether it's writing SQL statements, building reports, or setting up automations based on triggers. All your data, all your teams, all in one place. This is Microsoft Fabric.
You know what the AI supercomputer did for the infrastructure layer? Microsoft Fabric will do to the data layer for this next generation of AI applications. Very, very exciting. These are just the 5 of the 50. So we have 45 more to discover throughout the conference. We're, again, really on a fast pace to build things that help us build this next generation of applications, but build them with safety first. Now, one of the things that I think we should ask ourselves as developers is, why do we build? Why do we build technology? You know, this relationship between economic progress and economic growth and technology has been there for a long time. In fact, this graph, when you see it, it's pretty stunning that for most of human history, we didn't have much economic growth, nor did we have much technology. And then something happened 250 years ago, right, which was long in building, by the way, from perhaps the Enlightenment to scientific revolution to the Industrial Revolution was close to 400 years. But then there was real progress. You see that slope going upwards. And then, of course, over the last 70 years, information technology has played a role across all of those sort of seminal moments on the march towards that dream machine. And of course, we now enter the age of AI, and we get to define what that slope looks like going forward for economic growth. But it's not even just economic growth on its own, right? We don't build just because we want economic growth. We want economic growth so that we can have human development index growth. We want the lifespans to go up. We want education and prosperity and standard of living to go up everywhere. That's why we build. That's why we innovate. That's why technology exists. It's not for technology's sake, but it is for that broad impact. And to me, this all came together. You know, in January, when I was visiting India, I had a chance to see this demo, and it sort of had a very profound impact on me, because at some level, it sort of motivated me to go into this next wave with that much more vigor to ensure that this time around, this technology reaches everybody in the world. There are two things that stood out for me, right? That things that we build can in fact make a difference to 8 billion, not some small sort of group of people. And to be able to do that by diffusion that takes days and weeks, not years and centuries. Because we want that equitable growth, we want trust in technology, we want to ensure that we protect those fundamental rights that we care about, and that we do this in such a way that we manage our energy transition given the finite resource we have in our planet. That's, at the end of the day, what grounds us in our mission, to empower every person, every organization on the planet to achieve more. And so I want to leave you with this video of what you as developers are going to do in the days and weeks and months and years to come is going to have the most profound impact of any technology to 8 billion people all around the planet. Thank you very much, and have a fantastic build.
मैं एक किसान हूँ। अपने ही गांव में हमारी ज़मीन है 2 एकड़, उसमें ही हम खेती उगाते हैं। रबी की और खरीफ की दोनों फसलें उगाते हैं, जिसमें गेहूँ है, ज्वार है, बाजरा है, तिल्ली है, सरसों है। बट यहाँ मेवात में के अंदर बहुत से गाँवों में न्यूज़पेपर नहीं पहुँच पाते हैं। ये सरकारी स्कीमें पहुँचती हैं, लेकिन ग्रामीण इलाकों में लोग योजनाओं की स्कीम पहुँच भी नहीं पाती है।
These are all communities living in media dark areas, which means that penetration of traditional media like television and radio is very sparse. There's also literacy challenges, so things like newspapers have a very low access in these areas.
In India, we have 22 constitutionally recognized languages, but apart from that, we have more than 100, almost 120 languages. Being able to provide justice to each and every citizen in their own language, it's a challenge. It's also an opportunity.
Jugalbandi is a chatbot that we built to solve two problems. One is this linguistic divide and the technological divide. We collected millions of parallel sentences for machine translation. We collected thousands of hours of data for speech recognition. And then we built state-of-the-art models on top of it using Parsini speech recognition models and Azure's OpenAI. So these capabilities allows us to understand language, transcribe it, translate it, and also synthesize it back in the form of speech.
चचा यू जुगलबंदी है, यहाँ पे हम लिख के भी और बोल के भी कुछ भी जो हमें स्कीम चाहिए, सरकारी योजना है, उनके बारे में जानकारी ले सका।
मैं किसान हूँ, मुझे सरकारी योजना कैसे प्राप्त हुई?
मेरा नाम जुगलबंदी है। मैं एक असिस्टेंट हूँ जो आपकी सरकारी योजना के बारे में जानने में और उसके लिए एनरोल करने में आपकी मदद करूँगी।
तो वहाँ से हमें लिखित में भी और ऑडियो में भी दोनों तरीके से जवाब आया और किस किस डॉक्यूमेंट्स की ज़रूरत पड़ती है और किस किस फॉर्म की ज़रूरत पड़ती है।
The Ministry of Electronics and IT in the country has been working on this for the last 5 years now. And when Chatgpt was launched, that was really the catalyst for us being able to bring these pieces together. We've been able to categorize the diversity of India as an innovation opportunity. And if you're able to do that successfully, you're able to do it for the world.
Please welcome Chief Technology Officer and Executive Vice President of AI, Kevin Scott.
So that was an amazing video, and thank you, Satya, for sharing it. It really is inspiring to see this technology getting diffused so quickly and having a real positive impact across the globe, not just in the the urban innovation centers here in the United States and in the capitals of the industrialized world. So I'm so excited and happy to be with you all here today in person at Build after a 4-year hiatus. And I guess it goes without saying that a lot has changed in the world of technology over these past 4 years. One of the biggest changes, and it's the theme of this conference, is what has happened in the world of AI just even in the past year, and what that means for you all as developers. I wrote my first program as a developer in the early 80s when I was 11 years old, I think. And I remember what a thrilling moment that was, like being able to do something for the first time that I didn't even realize was possible. And I've been chasing that feeling my entire career, like trying to find those moments where something impossible became possible. And then as a developer, figuring out how I could participate in that change. And the thing that I can say that is like the most exciting thing in the world to me, maybe the most exciting time that I've experienced in my career, is what that power of AI is doing right now to help all of us have that moment, that ability to take something in our hands, to look at what was possible, what was impossible and becoming possible now, and then going and doing something great with it. So I'm going to spend my next half an hour or so chatting with you all about some of those technological themes that are driving all of this great progress in AI that we're seeing. So we're going to start with, maybe the obvious thing. So there's an incredible amount of attention being paid right now to what's happening with the rapid progress with these AI models, these foundation models that we're calling them now. And in particular, like the rapid pace of innovation that's being driven by OpenAI in their partnership with Microsoft. We really are setting the pace of innovation in the field of AI right now. And I think even for us, it's been surprising to see how much of the zeitgeist is being captured by things like Chatgpt and applications that people are building on top of these large foundation models. The reason that this partnership between OpenAI and Microsoft has been so successful is that we really do have an end-to-end platform for building AI applications. We built the world's most powerful supercomputers. We have the world's most capable foundation models, either hosted that we built ourselves and make available to you all via API, or open source, which run great on Azure. We also have the world's best AI developer infrastructure. So whether that is using these super powerful computers to train your models from scratch, or to build these applications that we're going to be talking about at Build this year on top of that infrastructure, like we have that end-to-end platform. And you're going to hear a ton about it today and tomorrow. Scott's keynote is right after mine. Like he's going to dive into detail on a bunch of this stuff, and then the breakout sessions are going to be amazing and like equip you all with the information that you need to go do some pretty awesome stuff. So, this end-to-end platform starts with Azure. We really believe that Azure is the cloud for AI. And it's not just the amazing, technically complicated and brilliant work that our partners OpenAI have done on top of all of this infrastructure, but it's things that the teams at Microsoft are doing to build our Copilot applications and our own advanced AI models. And it's also the things that our partners, some of you here in this room, are building on top of Azure, making Azure this amazing platform for doing the most ambitious flavors of AI in the world. But it's not just Azure. Windows, we believe, is the best client for AI development. And you're going to see a bunch of that today, and Panos is going to dive into it pretty deeply tomorrow. So Satya showed the Windows Copilot, which is going to be an amazing part of your productivity story. Like GitHub Copilot works great on Windows, but increasingly what you're going to see is the ability to run these powerful AI models on your Windows PC so that you can develop these true hybrid AI applications that span the edge all the way to the cloud. And it's just a really, really exciting thing. But what I'm going to spend most of my talk discussing with you all is this idea of the Copilot. Satya's already referenced a whole bunch of the Copilots we've launched. Like as he said, it's almost as if we woke up on January the 1st and decided to do a whole bunch of press releases, but it's really been years of work where we have built a platform for building Copilots that has enabled us to do these amazing releases that we've been doing, and we are sharing with you all today some of those patterns that have helped us build Copilots and showing you and opening up our platform so that you can build Copilots of your own. And so just to start with, like a Copilot, simply said, is an application that uses modern AI, that has a conversational interface that assists you with cognitive tasks. And we're going to talk a lot about what that means later. We believe that it must be an open ecosystem. So like one of the most important things that we believe is, even though like there are a whole bunch of Copilots that Microsoft has built, that maybe the most interesting Copilots that get built are by you all, using these powerful tools that you have, both on Azure, on Windows, and in the open source community. So, as we start talking about this, I would love to bring to stage Greg Brockman, the president and co-founder of OpenAI, to talk about his experiences building GPT-4, like this powerful model that's powering a bunch of these Copilots, and about Chatgpt, which maybe is the most interesting Copilot in the world right now. So please join me on stage, Greg. Good to see you. Awesome. Fantastic. So thank you so much for joining us today here at Build. So I wanted to start with the Chatgpt experience. So I believe it's caught us all by surprise, like just how crazy the adoption of Chatgpt has been and how much interest there is. But like it's a really big engineering challenge to build something like Chatgpt. So maybe you could talk a little bit with us about that.
Yeah, Chatgpt was a really interesting process, both from an infrastructure perspective and an ML perspective. We'd actually been working on kind of the idea of having a chat system for a number of years. We'd even demoed at Build an early version called WebGPT.
Yep.
And it was cool. It was a fun demo. We had a couple hundred contractors, literally people we had to pay to use this system. And they were like, it's kind of useful, can kind of help with coding tasks. But for me, the moment that really clicked was when we had GPT-4. And that we had a traditional process. GPT-3, we just deployed the base model, so just been pre-trained. We hadn't really tuned it in any direction, and that was in the API. For 3.5, we'd actually gotten to the point where we were doing instruction following, where we had contractors who were given, here's an instruction and here's how you're supposed to complete it. And we did that training on GPT-4. And the thing that was so interesting was I just, as a little experiment, was like, well, what happens if you follow up with a second instruction after it already generated something? And the model replied with a perfectly good response that incorporated everything from before then. And so you realize that this model was capable enough. It had really generalized this idea of, well, if you really want me to follow instructions, you give me a new instruction, maybe you really want me to have a conversation. And so for me, that was the moment that it kind of clicked that, okay, we have this infrastructure that's already in place with earlier model, and this new model, even just using this sort of technology that wasn't meant for chat, it wants to chat, like it's going to work. And so this was a real aha moment. And from there, we just were like, we got to get this thing out. It's going to work.
Yeah, and I think it was really surprising to me. I remember when Sam called me up and said, hey, like, you know, we want to release this Chatgpt thing. And like, you know, we think it's going to be a few weeks worth of, you know, work to condition one of these models. And I was like, sure, why not? And I had no idea that it was going to work technically as well as it did, and that it was going to be such a crazy success. And so, you know, maybe related to that, I know that you are one of the principal architects on all of the infrastructure that was used to train GPT-4. And so GPT-4 powers parts of ChatGPT, and it has just really been a revelation for everyone who's been working in the field of AI. So I wonder if you could share a little bit of, you know, what are some of the interesting things that you found about the development of GPT-4?
Yeah, GPT-4 was very much a labor of love. As a company, we'd actually, after GPT-3, had multiple failed attempts to surpass the performance of that model. It's not an easy thing. And what we ended up doing was going back to the drawing board, rebuilding our entire infrastructure. And a lot of the approach we took was get every detail right. And I'm sure that there's still bugs. I'm sure that there's still more details to be found. But you know, an analogy from Jakob, who was one of the leads on the project, that I really like is it's almost like building a rocket, where you want all the engineering tolerances to be incredibly tiny. And so lots of little details, like for example, it used to be, turns out that if we had a bug in our checkpointing, where if you killed the job at exactly the wrong moment, you could end up with a blend between, you know, new weights and old weights when the job restarted. Machine learning mostly doesn't care. It's happy to recover from that. But it's one of those things where every time you see a weird wiggle in your graph, you're like, I wonder if this was that particular issue or if it's a real other one. And so if you go back and you really pay attention to every single detail and just do the boring engineering work, like that is the main thing that I do.
Yeah, well, I mean, the boring engineering you do is like at just an unbelievable, phenomenal scale. But like, I do think that that's a good, you know, parable for everyone in the room. It's sometimes the boring engineering work that like really leads to success. So Satya talked a little bit in his talk about this shared approach that we're developing for plugins, this idea that we're going to empower all of these folks in the room to write software that can extend the capability of things like ChatGPT and like all of these co-pilots that we're building. And I know that that also has been an interesting technical challenge, and like we still don't yet have all of the technical you know, issues sorted out, and like there's a lot of work left to do to like get it into the state that we ultimately want it to be in. So I wonder if you like have some thoughts you wanted to share on that.
I love plugins. Yeah, like I think it's been a really amazing opportunity both for sort of every developer to leverage this technology in a way that just makes the system better for everyone, right? And that's what I think is so exciting. Part of the reason we designed it as an open standard was because that way, as a developer, you build this thing once and then any AI can use it. And it's such a beautiful idea, right? I think that the web, part of what really drove it was anyone could build a website, and now everyone gets access to that. And then you build an API and suddenly anyone can leverage it. And I think that this kind of core design principle of really having any developer who wants be able to plug in, get the power of the system, and be able to bring all of the power of any domain into ChatGPT is really, really amazing.
Yeah, and the thing that I really love about plugins is conceptually that it's so simple. It reminds me a little bit about the first HTTP server that I ever wrote. Like if you understand the core concepts, you can stand up something very quickly that can do something very powerful. And like I think that is an awesome, awesome thing as an engineer. So in your role at OpenAI, like you are constantly thinking about how to push the limits of the technology. And, I think one of the really amazing things about our partnership is working with you all. It feels like we get to see a little bit further into the future than we otherwise would be able to. So I wonder if you could say a few things about what's exciting to you about what's over the horizon, like either with applications or with the models.
Yeah, the thing that to me is interesting is we're almost on a bit of a TikTok cycle, like, Intel of yore, where you kind of come up with an innovation and then you really push it. And I think that with GPT-4, we're kind of in that early stage of really pushing it, right? That we still have vision capabilities that have been announced, but that we're still productionizing. And I think that it'll just kind of change how these systems work and how they feel and kind of the kinds of applications that can be built on top of them. So I'm really excited to, if you also look back at kind of the history that over the past couple of years, I think we did like a 70% price reduction 2 years ago. The base this past year, we did a 90% cost reduction, like a 10x cost drop. Like that's crazy, right?
Crazy.
And I think we're going to be able to do the same thing repeatedly with new models. And so GPT-4 right now, it's expensive. It's not fully available, but that's one of the things that I think will change.
Yeah, and I think that is, a thing that I would want to leave everyone here in the room with is that, and it's what we say to all of the developers inside of Microsoft building on top of these things, like what's expensive today won't be tomorrow because the progress there is so fantastic. So I think we've got time to squeeze one last thing in. So you've already dispensed a bunch of like really great advice for developers here in the room, but like maybe one more thing that you would leave the audience with.
I think that in this field, the technology is clearly getting better and better. But the thing that I think every developer can do that is hard for us and even Microsoft at Microsoft scale to do is to really go into specific domains and figure out how to make this technology work there. So I really love companies that are in the legal domain and really getting expertise and talking to lots of lawyers and understanding what their pain points are with this technology. And so I think that there's a huge amount of value to be added by the efforts of everyone.
I think that's awesome. Like you heard it from Greg. You all are the ones who are going to make AI great. So thank you so much, Greg, for being with us here today. Thank you for all you're doing. Thank you very much. So one more interesting OpenAI thing that we're going to do. So we have Andre Karpathy here. I think I see Andre in the front row. So Andre is going to be here on this stage later today doing a state of GPT. So he's going to walk through the technology from beginning to end. Like it's going to be an awesome session, like probably going to be tight on seating. So like try to get your spot here. You are not going to want to miss that. So let's talk about copilots. So Satya mentioned a bunch of the copilots that Microsoft has launched, and that our partners have launched. So, we sort of think of Chatgpt as fitting this copilot pattern. Bing Chat certainly, GitHub Copilot, the Microsoft Security Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, and Designer. Many, many more. So the thing that we noticed as we were building these copilots, starting with GitHub Copilot several years ago, is that the idea of a copilot is actually pretty general. So this notion that you're going to have a multi-turn conversational agent-like interface on your software that helps you do cognitively complex things applies to more than just helping someone do software development. And that's sort of what you've seen. Like we have search copilots now, we're going to have security copilots, we have productivity copilots, and we're going to have all of the copilots that you all build. And the thing that we noticed for us at Microsoft is that we needed to look at what is common across all of these things so that we can understand how to design great user experiences and what the technology stack is that is going to empower us to deliver these things safely, responsibly, cost-effectively at scale. It's the reason that we have been able to do this sort of blitz of Copilot announcements and delivering these products to users so quickly is because we stopped and took the time and energy to go build a Copilot technology stack that would allow us to move quickly with safety. So one of the things that I want to talk with you about today is what that technology stack looks like. But before we dive into the details, like, I think Satya's reminder to us all, like, why do we do what we do? So one of the important reasons that we have taken the time to sort of think about this Copilot stack as one coherent thing is platforms are important. It gives us the opportunity to build things that are more ambitious than you otherwise would be able to build. And it gives you, the developers, a chance to build things that wouldn't be possible if the platform didn't exist. So I love this quote from Bill Gates. It may or may not be apocryphal, but it's still just been attributed to Bill for many, many years. And what Bill is saying here is that the true value of a platform only materializes when the value created on that platform accrues to the people who are building on top of the platform, not the platform builder itself. And so, like, if that's not true of a platform, then it's really not a platform. And, the thing that makes platforms even greater than all of that value that they can potentially produce is it prevents folks from having to bear the burden of building very complicated things from the ground up just to build the application that they want to go build. It's great if you want to build all of this stuff, if you want to be a platform company or an infrastructure company, but if what you want to do is build a legal copilot like Greg was talking about, or you want to make a copilot for medicine or a copilot for helping people get through their insurance claims, you are not going to want to build all of this stuff from the ground up. It will be economically infeasible. The amount of compute that we are investing in and just sort of the scale of all of that infrastructure is absolutely astronomical. And the fact that the things that come out of the other end of the compute, these foundation models in this entire platform, that they are reusable and generalizable is like really a fantastic thing. And like one of the things that we've been betting on for 5 years now, that this was going to be a durable property of these systems. So one of the things that you're going to hear a lot about at Build is this idea that the foundation models are powerful and they're getting more powerful, but they can't do everything. And you shouldn't have to wait around until we train a model that can do the thing that you want to do. You should have ways to accommodate your application, build your application on top of this technology, even when the model itself isn't complete or perfect. And so we're going to talk about a ton of ways that you can do that. Satya's already referenced plugins. Greg and I chatted about plugins. Like, plugins are going to be one of those powerful mechanisms that you use to augment a Copilot or an AI application so that it can do more than what the base platform allows you to do. And like what a plugin may do is it helps augment your AI system so that it can access APIs, and via API can do anything like change state in a digital system or retrieve information. Like, for sure, people will use plugins to retrieve useful information. Like, you've already seen some video demos of that happening already, and you're going to hear a lot more about that. It allows you to perform arbitrary computations and to safely act on the user's behalf. And really the way that we think about these plugins is they're almost like actuators of the digital world. So anything that you can imagine doing digitally, like you can connect a Copilot to those things via plugins. But what I'm going to spend the rest of this talk focusing on is the anatomy of a Copilot. So what does a Copilot look like? What is shared? What's common among all of these things that we built? And like, what are the platform components that we are building to help you all build Copilots of your own? So this starts from the user experience. There are some things that are the same, and there are some things that are different about building Copilot user experiences. There is an application architecture, and there will be some familiar things about it, but like a bunch of new stuff to learn. And then it is so important for all of us to think about safety and security. You'll inherit a lot of that by using the tools that we built for you all, but like, it's a thing that you need to think about from the very first steps of building your Copilot applications. So I just want to start with the thing that doesn't change when you're thinking about building a Copilot. You have to build a great product. So it is something that we sometimes forget, but you have to understand what that unmet user need is, like what it is that you are trying to make better, where you have a unique understanding of that thing that maybe no one else has. And then you need to apply the technology. Like, sure, the tech is great. It's making a whole bunch of things that were impossible or infeasible or expensive possible, easier, and cheaper. But it does not absolve any of us of the responsibility of sort of thinking about what good product making looks like. And one thing in particular that you have to really bear in mind is the model is not your product. Unless you are an infrastructure company, like the model itself is just infrastructure that is enabling your product. Like, it isn't the thing in and of itself. And so, like, one of the mistakes that I've seen just, being in the tech industry over the 20 years is like having people sort of fixate on infrastructure versus fixating on product. So, it's just a thing that, we even have to remind our teams here inside of Microsoft over and over and over again, is like, use the infrastructure that you have at hand that is best going to enable you to solve your problem. Don't build infrastructure that you don't have to build. And again, it's just up to you all, it's up to us. Like, we have to build great experiences, things that delight users. Like, we got to get things out into the hands of users as quickly as possible, see what works, see what doesn't work, iterate, make them better. So let's dive into the Copilot stack. So Satya already showed this, and like, we're going to blow it up a little bit now. So this is how our copilots at Microsoft are structured, and like, these are some of the things that we're going to be diving into greater detail in subsequent talks for you all to have a look at, to pick up, to use, to learn about, and to make things. Some of this may look familiar. So there are 3 boxes. You can think of these as roughly corresponding to the 3 tiers of a normal application. So you've got a front end, you've got a mid-tier, you've got a back end. So the front end, like the things that we've already talked about, is like, you start with understanding what your amazing product idea is. The thing that's a little bit different about the user experience design with copilots is we have more or less been building user experiences the same way for 180 plus years, since Ada Lovelace wrote the first program. Like, we have had to understand what the machine is capable of, and then we are fiddling around with how we express the connection between the human and the machine, like, in very explicit ways. So like, what that means for you all is like fiddling around with user interface elements, menus, binding code to actions, like trying to fully anticipate the needs of the user and architecting your applications in a particular and familiar way so that people know how to get at all the functionality, the capability that you really built into your code. The thing that's a little bit different in a Copilot is you're going to spend less time thinking about like what your user interface widgets are, and like trying to second guess the user about what it is they want, because they have this really natural mechanism to express what it is they want, natural language. And so like what you have to think about in the design of these Copilots is like what it is you want the Copilot to actually be capable of. So like what are the things the model can't do that you need to augment with like a bunch of the stuff that I'm about to show you in the orchestration layer with plugins, and maybe even with fine-tuning models or using a portfolio of models to accomplish. But it's going to be way less of that fiddling around, like mapping user interface elements to little chunks of code than you're accustomed to. And you also, on the flip side of that, have to think about what you want the Copilot not to do. And so this is like important in how you're thinking about safety, but also because like the thing at the bottom of the stack, these foundation models are sort of like a big bucket of unrestrained capability. Like you're the one who oftentimes has to restrain it to like your particular domain. For instance, with GitHub Copilot, like a bunch of the work that we did is to like keep the model on task, which is helping you solve your development problems. Like you're not trying to figure out what the best menu item is on Taco Bell when you're sitting in GitHub Copilot trying to write a piece of code. So that's the user interface, like just broad brush, like what is different there. So now let's talk about orchestration. So orchestration is like the business logic of your Copilot. And as I mentioned, when we started building our own Copilots, every team inside of the company was building their own orchestration layer. So like all of that logic to figure out like how to get a thing to, sequence through all of the models, do all of the filtering, like do all of the prompt augmentation that you have to do to like build a really great app. And we just sort of noticed that there was commonality across all of those things. So one of the things that we did that greatly affected our ability to get these co-pilots out to market at scale and to do more ambitious things was to decide that inside of Microsoft, we are going to have one orchestration mechanism that we will use to help build our apps. That is called Semantic Kernel, which we've open sourced, and there's a session on Semantic Kernel later at Build, which I would encourage you all to attend. But like, we also know that we're not the only ones who've seen that there's all of this commonality across orchestration. And there's some really great open source orchestration tools that work super well inside of the Azure ecosystem that we're building. So Harrison from LangChain, shout out to Harrison, is here with us in the front row. Yeah, give Harrison a round of applause, please. So LangChain is like one of the most popular open source orchestration mechanisms, and like, you know, Harrison with a very small team has built a thing that is useful to an extraordinary number of developers. So, you know, and orchestration isn't a solved problem. Like, we're going to see a lot of new ideas there. And like, the thing that I want to assure everyone here in the room is that you'll be able to use whatever orchestration mechanism you want. Like, we'll give you some options that we think are great for us. Like, we'll point you to some of our open source favorites. But if you want to roll your own thing, like, that's your choice. Like, I'm a developer. I like rolling my own stuff sometimes too. One of the things that you'll see in Scott Guthrie's talk that's coming up next is prompt flow, which is another orchestration mechanism that actually unifies LangChain and Semantic Kernel. And so, like, I encourage you all to go dive a little bit deeper there. So inside of the orchestration layer, the fundamental thing that you're going to be manipulating is a prompt. And so a prompt is just a bucket of tokens that is generated by the user experience layer of your application. It could be, you know, in something like Bing Chat or Chatgpt, like a question or like a thing that a user is asking the model to do. Or it could be something that your application constructs, like where it's not a direct natural language thing from the user, but a natural language thing that you are conveying to the model from your application. And a big part of handling those prompts at the beginning stages of orchestration is prompt and response filtering. So basically saying, I'm not going to allow these prompts through because, you know, maybe they will cause the model to respond in a way that doesn't meet the needs of your application or do something unsafe. And you also filter responses on the way back up. So after the model has produced a response to the prompt, like, you may decide that you want to filter some or all of the prompt out. Like, a natural thing to, where this happens is with the safety infrastructure that you're going to see Sarah Bird talk about in her talk later. But like, there are other reasons that you may want to do some filtering on the responses. You also have this unit of prompt code called the meta prompt. And the meta prompt is the standing set of instructions that you give to your co-pilot that get passed down to the model on every turn of conversation that tells it how to accommodate itself to the co-pilot that you're trying to build. It's where a bunch of your safety tuning is going to happen. It's where you sort of tell the model like what personality you want it to have. So like, for instance, we use the meta prompt to do things like telling Bing Chat to be more balanced versus more precise. It is also like how you sort of teach the model new capabilities. So like, you can even think of meta prompt design as a form of fine tuning. And so it's just far easier to do things in the meta prompt than to like have to go down to the lower layers of the infrastructure and start rolling your own things. Once you get past the meta prompt and the prompt filtering stages, like, you start to think about grounding. And grounding is all about adding additional context to the prompt that may be useful for helping the model respond to the prompt that's flowing down. So in the case of Bing Chat, which I think is the first place that was really doing retrieval augmented generation before retrieval augmented generation had a name, we basically look at the prompt, the user query, and issue a query to the search index to find relevant documents for the prompt. We add those documents to the prompt and send it to the model so that it has that extra context to provide a good answer. Increasingly, people are using vector databases to do retrieval augmented generation. So like, you may take the prompt, compute a set of embeddings for them and then do a lookup in a vector database that is indexed by those embeddings to get relevant documents for the prompt and give that extra context for the model to give you a better answer. But you may also augment the prompt and do grounding with arbitrary web APIs, and like you can even think about using plugins for doing grounding. And so the next step here is like, this is where plugin execution happens. So at this stage, like, again, what I just mentioned in grounding, like you may use the plugin to add some extra context to the prompt before it goes down to the model, or you may execute something, do a plugin execution on the way back up from the model so that you can take an action on a system. So once you get through like all of the stuff in the orchestration layer, and I should say like also, you maybe do multiple turns through this whole system. So like calling multiple models, like making multiple passes through this whole pipeline in order to like get what you need from the system. But at the very bottom of the stack are foundation models and infrastructure. And we give you a bunch of choices for how to use foundation models in this Copilot platform on Azure and on Windows. So you can choose to use one of the hosted foundation models like the Chatgpt model or the GPT-4 model that are now available on the Azure OpenAI API service. You can fine-tune one of these hosted foundation models. The Chatgpt 3.5 fine-tuning APIs are live now, and you'll be able to fine-tune GPT-4 soon. But if neither of those options work for you, like you have sort of exhausted all of the things that you can do in the orchestration layer to get your Copilot to do what you need, and neither of these things will work for you, like you can't wholly solve your problem with a hosted API because of whatever reason, you can't use the fine-tuning APIs to accomplish what you want to accomplish, you can bring your own model. And like we are incredibly excited about what's happening in the open source community right now. Like there's a bunch of brilliant work happening with open source models. And one of the things that you will see in the next talk is we have the Azure AI catalog, model catalog, that is going to be a place you can go inside of Azure to find the most popular models on Hugging Face and in GitHub, where you'll be able to push button, provision, and deploy those models to Azure to use in your Copilots. And also, like you can train your own model from scratch, like as we mentioned several times, like from the most ambitious models in the world, the ones that OpenAI are training, all the way down to like smaller things like Azure AI supercomputing infrastructure and our environment give you a great way to train your model from scratch if that's what you need to do. So this is the Copilot stack, top to bottom. And what I want to do now is make this maybe a little bit less abstract by talking about a Copilot that I wrote. So I host a podcast called Behind the Tech. And every month when the podcast airs, my team comes and bugs me to write a social media post to advertise the podcast. And I suck at this. Like I forget to read my emails, like they have to bug me over and over again. And like they really want a Kevin social media Copilot so they don't have to go through the irritation of dealing with me. And so, I had the honor recently of interviewing Neil deGrasse Tyson on the podcast. And so like, I'm just gonna walk you through this Copilot that we built that we actually just ran, and it did the social media post for the Neil deGrasse Tyson podcast that just went live. So here's what it looks like. So just end-to-end picture, like the Copilot runs on a Windows PC. It uses a mixture of open source models and hosted models. It does retrieval augmented generation, and it calls a plugin to finish doing its work. So let's walk through these step by step. So the first step of this process is we have an audio file and we need a transcript. So on our Windows PC, we take the OpenAI open source Whisper model and run the audio through the model to get a transcript. Does a really amazing job. So once we have the transcript, like the next stage in the orchestration is we have the Databricks DALL-E 2.0 12 billion parameter large language model running on our Windows PC, and we ask it some things about the transcript, like for instance, who was the guest this episode? Like, because again, we want to do this like lights out, like not have to have Kevin answering a bunch of questions because he's slow and annoying. So the next thing we do once we have the transcript and we have all of this information that we've extracted from the transcript, like we want to send a chunk of that to the Bing API, or like we want to send Neil's name to the Bing API to get a bio. And then we're going to combine all of this stuff together into a single packet of information, like a big prompt that has some stuff about the transcript, and some stuff about Neil, and we get our social media blurb. Like this is a pretty good blurb. So we're going to go to the next step here, which is like we need a thumbnail. So we call our hosted OpenAI API to get an image from the DALL-E model. This looks pretty good. It's cosmic. It's sort of podcasty, like plenty good enough for this post. And so the last step is we want to invoke a plugin for LinkedIn that will take the thumbnail and the post and the link to the podcast and just post it to my LinkedIn feed. One of the super important things about this is we are before we take an action on the user's behalf, we want to present to them like what it is that's going to happen. Because if for some reason or another, the model went haywire and produced something that we didn't want to post, like once I hit yes, this is going to 800,000 people on LinkedIn. So we review, we click yes, and we post. So, and this is the live post that's like on LinkedIn right now. You should go check out this episode with Neil. It's awesome. So this is really just a illustration for you all. Like I'm not claiming that this is the most interesting Copilot in the world, but it was really pretty easy to do. So we posted all of the code on the GitHub repo. Like I encourage all of you to check it out. Like it's a good template for thinking about how to build your first Copilot. So the thing that we want to talk about last before we jump in to Scott's keynote is AI safety. So it's the first thing that we think about when we're building Copilots, and we think about it at every step of the process. You're going to hear a ton about this great AI safety work from my colleague Sarah Boyd, who runs our responsible AI infrastructure team inside of the AI platform group. It's really, really super good stuff. Like we're giving you all some amazing tools to go build really safe, responsible AI applications. Just very quickly, like I want to mention one of the things that you're hearing here first, Satya mentioned it, is we're giving you a bunch of like amazing media provenance tools that will help users understand when they're seeing generated content or not. Like we're going to be watermarking all of the content that we are producing, and we're giving you tools where if your AI applications, your Copilots are generating synthetic content, you'll be able to call our APIs and add these cryptographic provenance watermarks to your tools. It's super, super exciting stuff. So, Copilots. You have heard from us that we have this amazing new software development pattern. You have heard about how we think about architecting Copilots. And you have heard our enthusiasm that like not only are there going to be a bunch of Copilots from Microsoft and from our partners, but like we really think that you all are going to be the ones who build the most interesting Copilots in the world. It's just like any other major platform, like the thing that makes your PC great, the thing that makes the internet great, the thing that makes a smartphone great, aren't the things that launch when those platforms launch. It's what you all will create on top of them. So I want to share one anecdote before we go. I was an intern at Microsoft Research in 2001. I came to MSR with my PhD advisor when he went on sabbatical. And we would go out with our research group every Thursday to this burrito joint in Bellevue that I think is closed now, called Acapulco Fresh. And occasionally this gentleman would join us. His name is Murray Sargent. And Murray, like I was a 30-year-old PhD student, seemed like a legend to me because Murray was the guy who had broken the 64K limit on the Intel microprocessors. So like many of you may be too young to even remember this, but at one point in time, like the computers that we shipped could only use 64 kilobytes of memory for doing the work that they had to do. And Murray was the guy, when the 286 came out, that figured out protected mode and got Microsoft software to work beyond that 64K memory barrier. And it's like unbelievable to sort of think about what impact like small things like that had on the trajectory of the industry. So, you know, I was in awe of Murray, and I wondered every time we had lunch with him, what am I ever going to do in my career that would allow someone like me, like a younger version of myself, to look at me and think, wow, like this guy did some legendary stuff. And so this is the moment for all of us now. We have capabilities in our hands with these new tools in the early days of this new platform to absolutely do amazing things, where literally the challenge for you all is to go do some legendary shit that someone will be in awe of you for one day. And so with that, I would like to bring to stage my colleague, Executive Vice President of Cloud and AI, the legend himself, Scott Guthrie.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is great to be back here at Build. I'm really looking forward to spending the week with you. You know, as Kevin and Satya have talked about today, you know, AI is going to profoundly change how we work and how every organization operates. And every existing app is going to be reinvented with AI. And we're going to see new apps be built with AI that weren't possible before. And Kevin just walked us through the Copilot stack and explained the different layers involved in building solutions that take deep advantage of large AI models. I'm going to build on his talk and walk you through how we're going to make it easy to develop these AI solutions using Azure, GitHub, and Visual Studio. We're going to show a lot of code today in my talk and introduce you along the way to some amazing new capabilities that we're announcing and releasing here at Build. Let's start by talking about Visual Studio and GitHub. You know, the Visual Studio family of products, which includes both Visual Studio as well as Visual Studio Code, are now the most widely used development tools in the entire world across all languages and platforms. And GitHub is used by over 100 million developers and is literally the home of open source. GitHub also now provides developers and enterprises with an integrated end-to-end developer platform that can be used to collaborate, automate, and secure DevOps solutions. And with GitHub, you can build amazing AI solutions, including all the Copilot capabilities that Kevin just talked about, and use it to transform your businesses. Now, one of the most exciting new capabilities that we've launched with GitHub is a new service we call GitHub Copilot. GitHub Copilot was the first solution that we built using the new transformational large AI models developed by OpenAI. And Copilot provides an AI pair programmer that works with all popular programming languages and dramatically accelerates your productivity. This spring, we announced a new update for GitHub Copilot that we call Copilot X. And Copilot X further enhances Copilot using the latest GPT-4 models and provides immersive Copilot chat functionality, Copilot for pull requests, and automatic unit test generation scenarios. It's truly amazing. And what I'd like to do is invite Thomas Domke, the CEO of GitHub, on stage to show it off in action. Please welcome Thomas.
Good to see you, Bill.
Good to see you.
Hello, Build. It's so great to be here in person. I'm Thomas, and I'm a developer. And what we have witnessed this past year with GitHub Copilot has been a step change to developer productivity. Software has eaten the world. Now it's AI's turn. But the autocomplete pair programmer has always been just the starting point. We swing the doors wide open to a new age when natural language powers the coding experience. And that begins with GitHub Copilot Chat, a key feature for GitHub Copilot X. So let's see some real code. For this demo scenario here, I've inherited some Python code from a coworker. It's pretty purely documented. We've all been there, right? With GitHub Copilot, I can simply write code by accepting code suggestions. So here's a little unit test. and I can just press the tab key a couple of times, and I've written a full unit test in 7 lines of code with no, learning the code and whatnot. But what I can do with Copilot is to provide additional context. I can't tell Copilot what I want. Well, until now, because now we have Copilot Chat. It sits right here in Visual Studio Code. It suggests tasks based on natural language, and I can interact with it down here to both learn and build while I'm coding. So I have another file here. It's called unknown.py, and it has these 3 cryptic regular expressions. I have no idea what those are doing. Let's see if Copilot can explain them to us. Okay, Copilot is rendering my response, and you can see here the first regular expression is validating email addresses, the second one is validating phone numbers, and the third one is validating strong passwords. Might make sense, I guess. So let's highlight this and make this code a bit more readable. Make this code more readable. And Copilot has analyzed my code. You can see here, now my regular expressions get nice names, I get nice comments. It looks much better, but I think we can do even a little bit better to make the next person that takes this code understand it even more. So let's say we want to separate out the validation functions and add more comments. Okay, here's even better code. My regular expressions still have their good names, and I get 3 new methods, to validate email, phone number, and password. I think that's much better. So I can just scroll up here and take this code over, and now I have a much better documented file that I can pass on to the next coworker. Okay, I got a third file, and this seems to be passing expenses. I got a third file, and this one seems to be passing expenses. Let's see if this actually works. Ooh, I got an error. It can't unpack the values. So let's see if Copilot can fix the bugs in my code. And so it says, there's a couple of issues. Seems like the split method is splitting the values as a comma separator, but in my comment here, I had said I want the space separator. And then it also says, the datetime module is not imported, probably because I only highlighted the method. So if you look at here, the fix is in split. My fix here in split is here, so I can just go, of course, here. I'm still the pilot and fix this one method. And now my code runs. Cool. So while we're here, I can also ask Copilot to generate some unit tests for me, and I can do this with what we call / commands. So instead of typing, all this stuff on stage, I can just type tests. And now Copilot analyzes all the code paths in my code. It looks at the comment, and you can see it here generating multiple unit tests for my class. In fact, there's one for invalid dates, one for invalid values, command lines, single lines, empty string. It does all that boilerplate code for me, all that boilerplate work for me that I don't want to do. And now I can take this, click this little 3 dot here, and insert this into a new file, and have a new unit test file. And I can, of course, now use Copilot and Copilot Chat to build this out even more. Well, thank you, Copilot, for doing all the work for me. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, when can I get my hands on all this? And we want to bring this whole experience, all of Copilot X, as broadly as we can and as soon as possible. But right now, we have quite the wait list. Well, don't worry. I have an Oprah moment for you. You get a free Copilot Chat. You get a free Copilot Chat. Everybody here, right at Build in the audience, gets early access to Copilot Chat today. Use Copilot and Copilot Chat both in Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. And thank you so much for being here today. Back to you, Scott.
Thanks, Thomas. Thanks, Thomas. We're really excited to see what everyone here is able to do with GitHub Copilot. As you just saw, Copilot dramatically accelerates developer productivity. In fact, 46% of all lines of code written by developers that are using GitHub Copilot are now fully AI generated. 75% of developers using Copilot are feeling that they can now focus on more satisfying work. No one really loves debugging regular expressions, and you can now enjoy your jobs more. And 96% of developers report being able to complete repetitive tasks a lot faster. And we now have over 1 million developers using GitHub Copilot around the world today. And again, we're excited to have everyone here in the live audience be able to take advantage of the latest GitHub Copilot chat capability starting this week. Now, we've seen with Visual Studio, we've seen GitHub Copilot and Visual Studio in action. Let's now look at how we can use these incredibly powerful tools to start building AI plugins. And as you heard from Satya and Kevin, we're embracing an open plugin standard that provides plugin interoperability across ChatGPT and all of the Microsoft Copilot offerings. And with GitHub and Visual Studio, we have an incredibly streamlined developer experience for building these AI plugins. Let's watch a demo that shows all this off.
Plugins enable developers to integrate custom applications and data into the chat experience for users. Let's say we have an e-retail store that sells outdoor equipment. When a user asks a question about outdoor products within ChatGPT, we might want to provide them with a list of related products that are available. Now let me show you how easy it is to create a plugin using Visual Studio Code and GitHub. I could fork and clone the repo on my local machine, but instead I'm going to use GitHub Codespaces. Codespaces are GitHub's one-click developer environment in the cloud. They're fully configured to your repo, and they're free for up to 60 hours a month, which makes it a great fit for open source contributions, exploring new stacks, or working across multiple devices. Now let's crack it open and see what's inside. The code for this sample plugin actually looks pretty simple. It uses Fast API, a Python web framework, to expose some REST API endpoints that are called by ChatGPT. For this demo, our plugin is just going to return product information when users ask about them in the chat. I'll start by just loading some fake products from the products.json file. So I'm pretty new to Python, and I just love how Copilot helps me as a pair programmer. I'm able to stay in the zone and just focus on the big picture. Once we're done with our API, all we need to do to transform this project into a plugin is add a little bit of metadata. Well-known AI plugin.json has a description of what the plugin does and includes things like a logo that will be shown in the response. The same file can be used to create plugins for ChatGPT, Microsoft 365 Copilot, and Bing Chat. Now let's add a breakpoint to our API. Once the plugin gets called, I can observe the flow from the request and the response. One of the great benefits of Codespaces is that I don't have to do anything special to install the dependencies. I can run and debug the project, and everything just works. When our project starts, we can see that Codespaces has opened the ports for our Fast API server. This is really helpful for debugging web apps and APIs. By default, the endpoints for our Codespace are only accessible to me. They're secure by default. But I can also configure them to be accessible by my team or my organization, or I can choose to make them public. For the purposes of this demo, I'm going to make our Fast API port public so that ChatGPT can call it. Once I have the URL copied, I'm going to create a new chat in ChatGPT and then install the plugin via the plugin store. This is really simple. All we specify is the URL to our Codespace, and ChatGPT will take care of the rest. Now that our plugin is installed, we can start experimenting with the code inside the chat. To check it all out, all I need to do is start asking questions that might match the natural language instructions we gave in the metadata we exposed for our plugin. In this case, it was climbing products. Because our plugin is running inside a Codespace, we can even interactively debug it as well. As you can see, our breakpoint is being hit inside VS Code as soon as our plugin is invoked. We can step through the code, inspect variables, and really determine if there's any issues with the way that our code is behaving based on what's being sent by ChatGPT. The experience for building a ChatGPT plugin inside VS Code and GitHub Codespaces is incredibly productive. It's a lot like building a web app. The experience we showed here was for building a ChatGPT plugin, but the experience for building a plugin from Microsoft 365 Copilot and Bing Chat is exactly the same. Now let me show you the same plugin we just built running inside Bing Chat. Microsoft 365 Copilot also supports the same plugin, and you'll hear more about that tomorrow.
plugins are an incredibly powerful way to connect your apps and data to AI. And you just saw how we can use GitHub Codespaces to really deliver an amazing development environment, and Copilot to help you code and actually build it. And as Satya had announced this morning, we now have one plugin model extensibility across, again, OpenAI's Chatgpt service, as well as all of our Microsoft Copilot experiences. And tomorrow morning, you'll hear from Rajesh and Panos, who will share more about Teams and Windows and how you can use the exact same extensibility model to build great experiences within them as well. And you can use this extensibility model to enable plugins within Copilot experiences you build within your own apps as well. And a little bit later on in this keynote, I'm going to talk about how you build your own Copilot experiences using our Azure set of services. Now, in that last demo, we used GitHub Codespaces to both code the plugin, but also to kind of do a simple test of it within ChatGPT. And because Codespaces is running in the cloud, it was really easy for ChatGPT to connect to it, and you have a nice interactive debugging experience as part of it. This works really well for getting started and for simple development scenarios. But once you go into production, and as your AI plugin gets a little bit more sophisticated, you're going to want to be able to have a backend that's going to be able to scale it out. And there, you're going to need an elastic cloud. And Azure provides a great set of cloud-native services, including powerful Kubernetes, as well as container-based solutions that you can leverage to do this. And with our GitHub Actions capability inside GitHub, you can easily set up now a secure cloud-based CI/CD solution to automate and secure the building, the testing, and the deployment of your plugins to these Azure services. We have lots of organizations out there taking advantage of this capability today. You know, I think a great example, given we're talking about AI scenarios though, is ChatGPT itself. And ChatGPT is a great example of using this GitHub and Azure combination. You know, OpenAI uses GitHub for their development, and they use Kubernetes on Azure, and as well as our Azure Cosmos DB database service to run and scale the actual ChatGPT service as well. And obviously ChatGPT has captured the world's imagination this past 6 months. It's the fastest growing consumer product in the history of the web. And what I'll do now is show another demo on how you can also deploy AI apps using that same GitHub and Azure combination as well.
Now that we're ready to publish the plugin, we need to run it somewhere that's secure and scalable for our customers. At the end of the day, an OpenAI plugin is just a web service. So we're going to use Azure Container Apps to host the production version of our plugin and GitHub Actions to test and deploy it. Now, I could go through these setup steps in the GitHub UI, but today I want to show you how to configure GitHub Actions in Azure, all within the terminal. We'll use the new Azure Developer CLI, or AZD, for these steps. AZD is a command line tool that accelerates the process of building apps on Azure by providing developer-friendly commands that help automate each stage of the developer workflow. I'm going to start by making sure I'm logged into Azure. Next, I'm going to initialize the repo with an AZD template. Templates include everything I need to provision the resources for our plugin and deploy it to Azure Container Apps using GitHub Actions. The component that was added to the repo is the GitHub action. Now, I always have a hard time reading YAML, so let's use Copilot to help us make sense of it. Okay, it looks like our action is going to provision Azure Container Apps and all the other services we need for our production scenarios. And I also see that it's referencing some external variables, so I won't accidentally be checking in any secrets into my repo. Now I'm just going to push my changes to the repo. Let's take a look at what happens when one of these actions runs. I'm going to open the actions log for our repo to see our action running. I can see it's provisioning all the resources we need, and then I can check out the results to get the new URL of our Azure Container Apps where our plugin will run. Now that we have our plugin running on Azure Container Apps, we're able to scale to millions of users with the confidence that our plugin will run securely and with high availability. Our continuous delivery pipeline in GitHub Actions enables the team to collaborate and commit changes while ensuring that the updates are tested and deployed in a repeatable, secure manner.
So we've walked through how you can clone a sample AI plugin repo add code to it, set up a CI/CD pipeline, and deploy it into Azure. And as you've seen, everything is pretty easy to do. And what's even better is you can start doing it today. The exact same repo that we've done in all these demos is now public on GitHub. And all the capabilities that we've shown in terms of Visual Studio and GitHub and Azure are now available for all of you to start building great AI plugins with it. And the beauty is it'll work with not just ChatGPT, but with every Microsoft Copilot experience, as well as the Copilot experiences you build yourself. So we spent some time looking at how to develop AI plugins. Let's now switch gears and talk about and deep dive into what we call AI orchestration. Now, as Kevin explained earlier, AI orchestration involves grounding, prompt design and engineering, evaluation, and AI safety. These are kind of the core fundamentals for how you create great Copilot experiences. And this is exactly how Microsoft created all of our Copilots as well. And if you think about the pace of AI innovation that you've seen from Microsoft over the last 5 months, it's been pretty intense. We've introduced GitHub Copilot, Dynamics 365 Copilot, Power Platform Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot, Security Copilot, Nuance, Bing, and more. That's a lot of Copilots. And people are often asking, what's in the water? How are you producing so many Copilots so fast? And the reason we've been able to move at this fast pace is because we built all of these Copilots on top of one platform, which is Azure AI. And this is the exact same platform that all of you can also leverage as you build your own Copilot and AI experiences as well. Azure AI includes several categories of AI capabilities, including our advanced Azure AI infrastructure. An Azure OpenAI service is our newest capability and became generally available in January of this year. The Azure OpenAI service enables developers and organizations to access and use the most advanced AI models in the world, including both ChatGPT and GPT-4. And all of these Microsoft Copilot experiences that you're seeing here at Build are built using these Azure OpenAI models. And again, all of the Microsoft Copilot offerings are built using the exact same Azure OpenAI service and APIs that you can all use to build and scale your own AI solutions as well. Now, what makes the Azure OpenAI service so powerful is that it enables you to ground and fine-tune the AI models with your data. We're making it easy to do this with all of our Azure data services. And this enables you to get much more intelligent and tailored outputs from the AI models. And obviously, as you do it, one of the questions we get asked a lot is, can I, what happens with my data? And the bottom line is it's really important as you're grounding AI with your data that you trust your cloud provider. And obviously, Microsoft and Azure AI runs on trust. We're committed to doing all the right security work, the privacy and compliance work across everything that we do. And we've been doing this with our cloud for over a decade. And our approach to AI is no different. When you use the Azure OpenAI service, your instance is isolated from every other customer. Your data is not used to train or enrich the foundation AI model that's used by others. So you don't have to worry about anyone other than your organization benefiting from AI that's trained on your data. And your data and AI models are protected at every step by the most comprehensive enterprise compliance and security controls in the industry. And that's why more than 4,500 customers are already trusting and using the Azure OpenAI service today. It's the fastest growing service in Azure's history. And what I want to do is show a quick video of a couple of customers that have already built some amazing solutions with it. Let's watch a video.
With Azure OpenAI Service, developers can unlock innovative new ways to delight customers and offer completely new experiences with generative AI. As a leading agreement technology provider, DocuSign set out to help customers and signers better understand their agreements. With a single click, DocuSign extracts key data points, creates an AI-generated summary of a contract, and even allows users to ask questions and get answers quickly, so people can review and sign agreements faster, with more confidence. Thread helps IT technicians improve customer communication by eliminating tickets in favor of conversations that begin in the applications they use every day, like Microsoft Teams. With Azure OpenAI Service, Within 2 weeks, Thread developed a tool that automates time entries and streamlines resourcing and service request assignments, saving technicians over an hour per day. Typeface unlocks the creativity of their customers to tell unique stories faster and easier than ever before. Using Microsoft Azure and Azure OpenAI service, Typeface provides customers like Vasanti Cosmetics with a seamless experience to craft captivating content across marketing channels, while staying true to their distinct brand voice and visual identity. After learning about Vasanti's brand, using images, sample messaging, and branding guidelines, Typeface uses Azure OpenAI service and other services to provide stunning images and compelling copy in seconds. That is right on brand. Azure OpenAI service makes the impossible possible for small businesses and startups, as well as large and established brands.
So you just saw some great examples of companies that are already using the Azure OpenAI service within their products. And as you heard, in some cases, it was done in weeks. Let's now dive deep into how you can as well. This week at Build, we're introducing our new Azure AI Studio. The Azure AI Studio makes it incredibly easy to ground your AI models with your own data and to build retrieval augmented generation or RAG-based solutions. And this enables you to build your own Copilot experiences that are specific to your apps and organizations. And you're gonna see we've made it really easy to do so. So please welcome Seth Mares on stage to actually show us how to do it live. Here's Seth.
How's it going, my friends? You're probably sitting here thinking, this has got to be really hard for me to do. I want to build my own Copilot. It turns out that creating your own private company Copilot that understands your data with Azure OpenAI service has never been simpler. In this scenario, we're the Contoso outdoor company. We're trying to make Contoso happen again. Notice that when I ask it a question that's specific about a return policy, because here, let me type it. I'm a fast typer. But notice I'm asking about camping, and I'm wondering if I'm going to get dirty. And now that I purchased the Trailmaster X410, I want to know, can I send it back? Notice that the response that it gives is effective, and it has the right documentation. So how do you do such a thing, you might ask? Well, it all starts with Azure. You go to the Azure portal and create a new Azure OpenAI resource. And this is just like any other Azure resource. What you do when you get this is you get this Azure AI Studio, which is a new experience which makes it incredibly easy to ground your AI models with your data. I can use any of the available models. Notice here I have GPT-4 and GPT-3 Turbo, amongst others that are on there. Now, this experience allows you also to test it out. I'm using the vanilla Chatgpt here, and notice that when I ask it about camping, it has a pretty good answer, and you can see these responses in there. So the question then becomes, what happens when I ask it a specific question about the return policy for the Trailmaster X410? Well, notice it doesn't know. So how do I fix this? How do I put data in there? Well, you've heard a lot from Kevin about something called the RAG pattern, which is where you retrieve facts, inject them into the prompt or augment the prompt, and then what you do is you generate a new response. Now, the thing that I want to say about this studio as you're looking at it is this is your very own Azure AI Studio. It only benefits you. No one else can see your data. This is just for you. So this RAG pattern that Kevin talked about is such a common pattern that we've simplified it to just a few clicks. So let me go ahead and click Add Data, and then go to Add Data Source. Look, I got excited and started doing it backstage. Notice that when you add your data source, you can select from a number of different data sources. All the modalities available to you on Azure. Also, with cognitive search, as you heard about before, there is a new vector embedding available to you right in there. Also, the cool thing about cognitive search is it can crack open your PDF documents and your Word files and be in there. All right, so let's keep going. I acknowledge that I am connecting to an Azure service. Now let's map some of the data together. There's the content, there's the file name, there's the title. This is the best part of programming. Hit next. Oh, here's a cool feature. So this is a cool feature that we also added into this experience. experience, where you can limit responses to the data content that you retrieve, or you can let the service also augment some of that information as well. I'm going to leave it off. Okay, let's hit save data, and now I'm going to ask it some of the same questions from before. I'm really concerned about cleanliness in camping, apparently. Who wrote this? So notice that I'm getting a better answer that's grounded in data. And also, when I ask it about a specific policy, return policy for the Trailmaster X4 tent, I want you to notice something about the answer, which is really cool. Notice, not only do you get an answer, but you get the citations from your actual data. What happened is when the query went in, it retrieved your data, injected it into the prompt, and provided the answers. As you can see, this is pretty simple. Once you've got this working in the playground and your interaction flow is set up, everything is exposed as an API. You can use it in any application and surface it natively in whatever existing application you have, like this one, taking full advantage of the power of Azure AI. It's pretty cool, right?
Great. Thanks, Seth. And as you saw, Seth just showed you how incredibly easy it is to ground the Azure OpenAI service using your own data. Keep it private and specific just to your organization, so only you benefit from it. And then this enables you to build great Copilot experiences that are specific to your apps, specific to your organizations. And the great thing is what Seth just demoed is now in preview for you all to use. So data grounding is a critical part of how we build applications. As Kevin covered in his talk, AI orchestration also includes prompt engineering. And prompt engineering involves constructing the prompt and the meta prompt that you provide the AI model to produce a stronger, more specific response for the user. And this week at Build, we're introducing our new prompt flow support in Azure AI. Prompt flow provides end-to-end AI development tooling that supports prompt construction, orchestration, testing, evaluation, and deployment. And it makes it incredibly easy to leverage open source tools and frameworks like Semantic Kernel and LangChain to build your AI solution as well. And so let's go ahead and take a look at prompt flow in action. And Seth, back to you.
Let's do it. All right. So before, remember, we were looking at just the documents. This time, we want to look at a little bit more. So this is the same e-commerce application from before, which could be any SaaS company or product. Notice I'm going to ask it about jackets, but this time I'm going to be logged in as Jane, who has a very specific shopping cart. Remember before, it was just a bunch of documents that were used to augment the prompt, but can we do more? Can we add more information into the prompt? And it looks like we certainly can. Notice that we're getting a good response to our data, as well as it's telling us how well it pairs with the stuff in our actual cart, and they are actually in there, which is pretty cool. To do this, we are using a brand new Azure AI feature called Prompt Flow. It's pretty cool. It's really cool. You should clap a little bit. This is so cool. This is really cool stuff. This is a powerful suite of tools and services designed for prompt engineering, regardless of your experience in machine learning or AI. It's the first end-to-end prompt engineering tool of its kind. It includes tooling for prompt construction, evaluation, deployment, testing, and even monitoring. With Azure AI Prompt Flow, we can fetch data from multiple sources and fetch it and put it directly into the prompt, whether it's structured, unstructured. It's pretty cool. I'm going to show you three things. There's a ton of things in here, but I'm just going to show you three. First, the graph, the prompt, and then the model. This here is the prompt flow graph. And what's cool about this is you can get structured information coming into here, like a JSON file, and you can flow information down into the prompt. So data flows down into the prompt, like flow prompt, but we called it prompt flow. So that's the first thing. Let me show you the retrieve cart node, which is pretty cool. I'm going to just show you one node. Notice that this node takes the cart ID and calls this minimal API. And this minimal API is written in .NET. So it looks like I closed it. Why would I ever do that? I'm so sorry. So it's a minimal API that you can call that has C# in the backend. Now, the reason why I want to show you this really quickly is to show you how extensible this is. If I can call an API, I can do anything as I'm doing things in the prompt. In fact, that API that I'm calling that you see right here is exactly the same API that manages the cart on the website. It's exactly the same thing. I'm not even kidding. It's the same thing. I could show you the back end, but I forgot to open Visual Studio Code. So the thing about this extensibility that's actually really cool is that because of that, we can extend to things like LangChain, Semantic Kernel, or other tools that are data-based, forgive the pun, that can pull data into your prompt, or really anything else. Okay, so that's the first thing I wanted to show you. The second thing I wanted to show you was the actual prompt. So this is the prompt that we're building. Notice that this prompt is a bunch of text that gets data from the previous nodes. So as I zoom in, notice that it's enumerating the items of the cart and putting it into the prompt. That's how it knows when it generates the actual response. This then gets put into the model that then is the answer is retrieved. This model can be any of the OpenAI models that you saw before, including any OSS models that you deploy in Azure ML. All right, so let's go to the actual model call. This is where we call the model. We can run it directly in here. We can also bulk test and deploy. And if you want to see the responses, you can see the responses right here, which is the answer we saw before, as well as the actual trace of where and how long things take. Finally, you can deploy this, and you can use it in your app as a single endpoint. In summary, PromptFlow empowers developers to create richer language experiences that integrate data from multiple sources, providing personalized and contextually relevant information to your users. With its focus on simplicity, flexibility, and user engagement, PromptFlow is the first prompt engineering tool of its kind, first end-to-end prompt engineering tool of its kind. I'm excited to see what you build with it. Back to you, Scott.
Thanks, Seth. So PromptFlow is an end-to-end system for building, testing, and deploying modern AI-driven applications. And as you just saw, PromptFlow works not just with our Azure OpenAI service, but also with thousands of open source AI models as well. And this week at Build, we're also releasing a new Azure AI model catalog that makes it incredibly easy for you to also use and consume every open source model out there across your Azure AI solutions. Now, PromptFlow and Azure AI can also help you test and evaluate your AI applications to help ensure that your prompts are running safely. And in this new era of AI, considering safety is not an optional feature, it's really a requirement. And it can't be an afterthought. You really need to design with safety from the very beginning. And every AI system that we build at Microsoft is designed to uphold our AI principles. And this week, we're announcing our new Azure AI Content Safety Service to make it easier for you to also test and evaluate your AI deployments for safety as well. Now, the Azure AI Content Safety Service provides the same technologies that we use internally to build our own Microsoft Copilot experiences. And so you can also benefit from all the learnings that we've had in terms of making sure that our products are secure and safe. And so to share more, let me introduce Sarah Bird, who leads our responsible AI effort at Microsoft, to talk about how we're doing this. Please welcome Sarah.
Thanks, Scott. The recent breakthroughs in foundation models have also transformed what's possible in responsible AI, enabling us to develop new state-of-the-art tools and technologies that previously we only could have dreamed of. We've built on top of these AI models deep understanding of text, image, and multimodal content, and have developed a new Azure AI service to automatically detect undesirable content, making it easier to keep online communities, applications, and AI systems safe. We know from our own experiences building GitHub Copilot, Bing Chat, and Microsoft 365 Copilot that safety is a key part of building any Copilot. We use a defense in depth or layered approach to safety. First, we've worked with OpenAI to build safety directly into the model so it can recognize problematic queries and respond appropriately. Now let's talk about the next two layers, the layers that you control, the safety system and the meta prompt. I'll start by showing you the safety system, Azure AI Content Safety. Let's take a look.
Azure AI Content Safety is an API-based product that can be deployed as part of any application to monitor for harmful content in real time. I'm in the studio so that we can explore how it works interactively. For the Contoso bot, most people are going to be asking appropriate queries about products they'd like to buy. For example, here's a user query looking for an axe to cut a path in the forest. If we ask Content Safety to score this, we can see that it recognizes it as safe. However, one of the challenges with language is that small changes can completely change the meaning. But the power of new foundation models and Azure AI Content Safety is that it can understand these differences. So if I change even a single word in the sentence and rerun the query, you can see that Azure AI Content Safety understands that this query is not safe and it would reject it. Here, I'm using the default settings, but if I want, I can adjust the severity levels to meet the needs of my application and deploy this through the API in production. Contoso uses Azure OpenAI, so Azure AI Content Safety is already built in. Returning to the Contoso bot, I can test these same queries again. Here, I'm going to start with a recommendation for cutting a path. As you can see, the Contoso bot is prepared to recommend products the customer can buy. However, if I pretend to be a user with the same harmful query as before, I can see the safety systems in action, and my bot knows to reject it, protecting Contoso and its users.
Pretty cool, right? If you're using an So if you're using an open source LLM, you can call Azure AI Content Safety directly using the API. However, if you're using Azure OpenAI, you're starting with the first two layers of safety from the beginning. Regardless of what model you're using, the next area that you want to focus on is the meta prompt, that system-level prompt that you feed into the model to control its output. Here we have an example of the safety portion of the meta prompt for the Contoso application that Seth showed. As you can see, it's simply instructing the model in natural language to control for grounding the response, for controlling the tone, for safety, and to prevent attempts to break the model's safety systems. But what I really want to show you is how you can engineer and experiment with these kind of meta prompts using Azure AI Prompt Flow. Let's take a look.
I'm going back to the Contoso retail flow that Seth showed earlier to experiment with the meta prompt and add the safety section I just showed you. Rather than just push it to production, I also want to test it first. Built into Azure AI is a system for testing prompt variants. As you can see, I'm testing two variants here. Variant 0 contains the new safety section. Now I'm going to use Prompt Flow to see how these two compare. Prompt Flow provides built-in metrics, which makes it easy for me to evaluate. Let's look at the results. First, I'm going to look at the outputs of the system to understand how these two prompts stack up qualitatively. I can see immediately that there are differences in how they behave. And if I go to example 3, which is the example of a user trying to jailbreak the system, I can see that variant 0 outperforms variant 1 because variant 0 refuses to give information about its prompt, while variant 1 is successfully jailbroken. Now that I've looked at the examples, I want to understand how these two compare overall by looking at metrics. I can see that variant 0 is outperforming variant 1 across the board, with higher scores in groundedness, relevance, and coherence, which means it's the clear winner for me. And now I can confidently deploy to production and bring the power of AI to Contoso shopping experiences.
Here, you've seen the combined power of Azure AI Content Safety integrated in Azure OpenAI and meta prompt evaluation in Prompt Flow to build safety into Copilot. This is just a glimpse of some of the new responsible AI capabilities we have in Azure AI. We're making it easier to build real real-world, mission-critical, safe, and secure AI solutions that you can trust and use in your business. Scott, back to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks so much, Sarah. In this new era of AI, as I said earlier, safety is not an optional feature. It is a requirement. It can't be an afterthought. You need a design with safety in mind from the very beginning. And with services like the Azure AI Content Safety Service, we're providing you with powerful capabilities that are built into Azure AI, automatically integrated into Azure AI already for you, that'll help you be safe and secure as you build your AI solutions. So now that we've covered the Azure AI and the Copilot stack, let's now dive deep onto our Azure AI infrastructure. Now, we've invested heavily over many years now to make Azure the place to do cutting-edge AI innovation. Azure is very much now the world's AI supercomputer, and it's the infrastructure that's powering not just the Chatgpt experience, but all of the AI products and services coming from Microsoft. But it's also the AI supercomputer that was used to train the large foundation models that OpenAI produced. And to do this, we've built purpose-built AI infrastructure to deliver reliability and performance at scale. We built the largest AI model training system in the world, one with tens of thousands of interconnected GPUs and fast networking. The picture here is one of our new NVIDIA Hopper-based GPU systems. Azure was the first cloud provider in the world to deploy and offer Hopper-based GPU systems to customers. And the picture here, you can see a lot of cables. These are InfiniBand cables, and they're really important for our GPU clusters. And it's one of the ways that we really differentiate ourselves from others. Neither AWS nor Google support InfiniBand today. And InfiniBand gives Azure the highest network bandwidth and lowest network latency of any cloud hyperscaler in the world today. That picture shows you what the servers are. Now let's switch gears now and take a look at what one of these data center facilities looks like. The picture on the top right, you can see one of our new data centers that we're building to add to our Azure cloud region in Dublin. And those little things are tractors and cars. So it gives you a sense of the scale. And that building is just one data center that we're commissioning and adding into that region. And to give you a sense of the scale that Azure is now operating at, we'll now bring live more than 120 data centers this calendar year alone. That's one new data center every 3 days. And most of these data centers, like this one, are ones that we're designing and building ourselves. And multiple data centers then make up what we call an Azure region that you can deploy across. Now, our Azure region in Dublin is made up of many, many data centers like this one. And it's, in total size, it's already over 1.5 miles long and half a mile wide. And already has 2 million square feet of data center floor space that's already live that you can deploy your workloads in today. And to put 2 million square feet in perspective, that's the equivalent of 35 football stadiums in size, all just in one region inside Dublin. And Dublin is less than 3% of our total data center footprint around the world today. We now have more than 60 Azure regions live. Dublin is just one of those dots there on the map. It's more regions and in more countries than any other cloud provider. And we're bringing all of this scale and all this power to you so that you can build amazing solutions on top of it. But we also know that with all that power comes responsibility. We started our sustainability journey at Microsoft more than a decade ago, and we're committed to leveraging 100% renewable energy by 2025. And our data centers, including all of the new AI infrastructure that we're deploying, are very much part of that commitment. As an example, our data centers in Sweden use free air cooling to reduce carbon emissions, while in Arizona, we're using solar power. In Finland, we're reusing heat energy produced by the data centers to warm homes in the winter in Helsinki to help further reduce the carbon emissions from the local community as well. And Microsoft, including all of our Microsoft Cloud data centers, will be carbon negative by 2030. And by 2050, we'll have removed all historical carbon emitted by Microsoft since our founding in 1975. Now, the Azure AI infrastructure is being used for many, many different AI models and scenarios. We're talking at this conference and today a lot about the great work we're doing with OpenAI and LLMs on Azure. But we're also using this exact same infrastructure for many other AI models and experiences as well. And another unique AI partnership we have is with NVIDIA. NVIDIA is bringing its AI software to Azure by integrating NVIDIA's AI enterprise with Azure AI. Organizations are going to be able to have a secure, enterprise-ready platform to quickly build and deploy custom machine learning models. And NVIDIA's Omniverse Cloud provides a full stack environment to design, develop, deploy, and manage industrial metaverse applications. And this gives enterprises access to the full stack suite of Omniverse software applications and NVIDIA OVX infrastructure to scale and combine it with the scale and security of Azure. Azure is the only cloud provider offering Omniverse Cloud today. And with Omniverse Cloud on Azure, organizations like BMW are now able to build truly virtual factories. The BMW team can aggregate data into massive high-performance models, connect their domain-specific software tools, and enable multi-user live collaboration across factory locations. They can run real-time digital twin simulations, virtually optimizing layouts, robotics, and logistics systems, even years before a factory opens. And it's all possible from any location and on any device. Now, data, all the AI innovation that we've seen today is built on top of a foundation of data. Data is really the fuel that powers AI. And AI is only as good as your data. And so it's never been more important to have a great data analytics and data management foundation in place. And this week at Build, we're excited to announce Microsoft Fabric, a unified platform for data analytics, really designed for the era of AI. With Microsoft Fabric, we're bringing together Power BI, Data Factory, and the next generation of Synapse. And Fabric unifies all these analytics tools at every layer into one seamless product with one experience and one common architecture. You literally have unification at every layer. Unified data, a unified product experience for all your data professionals to collaborate in, unified governance and security, providing a single source of truth for everyone in the organization and a single way to secure it, and a unified business model to help ensure that all your resources are used in the most cost-effective way. And this complete platform really delivers data analytics as a software as a service model, just like Microsoft 365, making it much easier to stand up and manage, with frictionless onboarding, automatic optimization and integration, built-in security, governance, and compliance. It's lake-centric and has an open data architecture, and it has deep integration with Microsoft 365. And what's great is it's designed in particular for the era of AI with built-in Copilot support. And this Copilot support enables you to use AI to understand and reason over data in extraordinary new ways. And what I do is show a video of some of these new capabilities in action.
Let's take a look at how Copilot in Power BI is empowering everyone to quickly find and share insights. For example, say I'm an HR analyst who is constantly handling requests from my management to do analysis and provide answers. It can take hours and even days to respond with new reports. Now with Copilot in Power BI, I can simply describe the report I want to build and get insights in seconds. Maybe we need a breakdown of some of our employee data to understand demographics and hiring trends. I just describe what I need, and Copilot will automatically analyze my data and create a new report based on my needs. Immediately, I have a beautiful Power BI report that has been automatically created and is fully interactive. I can start slicing and dicing my data to explore deeper. Copilot added the charts and slicers I asked for, but also conveniently gives me options to adjust the output to get just what I need. For example, let's switch to ask for metrics and trends in a slightly different layout. Automatically, Copilot updates the report. Let's go ahead and keep this report page. It goes much further. I can also ask questions such as, why is our attrition rate going up? Copilot responds by adding a new page to my report and tapping into Power BI's built-in advanced analysis capabilities for finding key influencers for variables in my data. In addition to giving me a summary of an insight about different employee types having different attrition rates, I can easily explore Power BI's key influencer visual to see what's driving the biggest impact in our attrition rate. I can even automatically see the most significant segments in my data just by clicking. Now let's go back to the first page and finish up our new report. I'm going to ask Copilot to make it look like our existing exec dashboard, and instantly it's applied the same formatting and style and adjusted the layout to match. Best of all, I can still interact directly with the Power BI report that Copilot has created. So for example, if I wanted to manually change this bar chart to a tree map on my own, it's easy to do with just a few clicks. Let's add employee functional area, and now I can filter by this new field. Finally, to make the report even easier for my team to understand, I'm going to ask Copilot to add a rich text description of my data right inside the report. This narrative summary is fully dynamic, and not only does Copilot highlight interesting insights from my data, it will update the summary every time the data is refreshed or people filter the report. And just like that, in seconds, I've created a report that would have taken hours or days to do manually. Copilot, built on top of Azure OpenAI, is truly revolutionary for how we empower everyone to find and share insights.
And what you saw there is how we're able to organize data in Microsoft Fabric and in turn enable this amazing natural language experience in Power BI on top of it. You know, Microsoft Fabric is designed for the era of AI, and its serverless data management engine is tuned for advanced AI scenarios like that. And with Microsoft Fabric, we have a deep commitment as well to open formats and APIs. You know, Fabric comes with a SaaS multi-cloud data lake, what we call OneLake, that's built in and automatically available to every Microsoft tenant. OneLake is built on open formats, including Delta and Parquet, meaning it's compatible with solutions like Databricks and other open source tools. And since we know that many customers want to build AI solutions using data that might already be stored in other clouds, we've also built Microsoft Fabric to work across clouds, including AWS and in the future, Google. And I'm incredibly pleased to announce that Microsoft Fabric is now available in public preview for everyone to use. So we have some great sessions on Microsoft Fabric, and you're going to be able to learn a lot more about it later this week at Build. So we have an exciting future ahead of us. You know, Azure and the Microsoft Cloud, you know, is the place for every developer and every organization on the planet to be able to innovate using AI. We're really looking forward to building some great AI solutions with you together, and I hope you have a great rest of the build and a great rest of the day. Thank you very much.
What an amazing start to Microsoft Build. I'm Caruana Gatimu, joining you live from the Seattle Convention Center where our day one keynotes just wrapped. Throughout the event, we'll chat with industry leaders across the company and the world. Plus, for the first time, we're bringing you backstage to talk with some of the minds behind our keynotes and breakout sessions moments after they get off stage. In fact, our own Seth Juarez is live with Scott Guthrie right now. Seth, over to you.
He's right here, the man with a plan. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well.
So you just got off the keynote. Is it a little bit of excitement? You're excited to be done?
It's nice to be done.
Oh, it's nice.
It's always a little
You're
stressful.
telling me.
Yeah,
So what was the most